Hey everybody, this is Dr. Chris Dost. Welcome back to my channel, Biblical Languages and Literature. Before we get started with our video today, I just want to share with you a few new exciting things that are going on at Sabra Global Education. Beginning April 13th, Dr. Jeffrey Garcia of Alliance University will be teaching the Dead Sea Scrolls and the New Testament. This is a 4-week class that meets 1 hour per week, and in this video you'll get a taste of what that course is going to be about. Those who wish to sign up for the class but who cannot make the live class sessions, that's okay because the class sessions are recorded and uploaded to an online classroom for you to view at your convenience. For information on group discounts, please contact info@sabraedu.com, info@sabraedu.com. Beginning April 24th, Dr. Robert Harris of the Jewish Theological Seminary will be teaching the Book of Isaiah from yesterday to today. And this is an ongoing course that will meet indefinitely 1 hour per week. So if you're interested in getting to know the ins and outs of the Book of Isaiah from historical perspectives, Jewish perspectives, and Christian perspectives, this course is for you. Dr. Stephen Notley of Alliance University is teaching Jesus' parables as Jewish scripture. This course is already underway, but it's not too late to register. And as with the other courses, all of the class sessions are recorded and available to view through the online classroom. And for those who are looking for private lessons, whether it be in foreign languages, art, music, math, study skills, and more, please check out our online lessons and tutoring page to find your personal teacher today.
My goal is to sort of touch two major themes in the parables of Jesus. As I explained last week, my coming to the parables after the gospel parables, after working through early Jewish parables and through the first couple of centuries, is that I got a sense as to what parables talk about. They have a pretty focused themes of discussions of what they're dealing with, things they talk about, things they don't talk about. And much to my surprise, when I came back to the gospel parables, I had the feeling that Christian readers, New Testament scholars, have imposed on the parables of Jesus ideas that are not indigenous, that they're foreign, that they don't belong to the world of parables. And it's not that parables cannot be read that way. They can, because parables are a literary metaphor. And you can read parables, you can read them as you like. You can do with them whatever you want to do, which is fine. But it's a different question in asking, what did Jesus mean when he told the parables? So that's my attempt, as sort of if you will, a first reader's approach, trying to understand, those who heard Jesus speak these parables the first time, how would they have heard him and understood? And so we move. Last week we started by an introduction, looking at the genre of parables, trying to lay the groundwork of what a parable is, what a parable is not. And then in the last portion, we focused on the theme of divine mercy, God's mercy, which was their understanding of God was shifting, changing in the Second Temple period. It was in development, very interesting ideas that sort of set the stage, if you will, for the New Testament. A lot of times people will speak about, the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament, how the God of the Old Testament is angry and sort of strict and everything. The God of the New Testament is mercy and love. And they don't realize that really has nothing to do with Christianity. That has to do with developments within Jewish thinking, starting about the 2nd century BC. Different perceptions of God, different understanding of God, trying to grapple with real life problems that they had, and trying to understand how God relates to those. So this week we shift to another idea, which is, I call it the value of one, and it's tied to the image of God. The title of this one is Imago Dei and the Value of One. When I'm able to publish my book on parables, probably just the title of the chapter will be one. So I'm trying to get one word chapters. but it revolves around the idea of the intrinsic value of the individual. And of course, the foundations for all of this is the mentioning in Genesis about the creation of man. Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So what's interesting in this is that we tend, in our modern reading of this, is to read this as universal, that God created humanity. And that's not how it reads actually in Hebrew. It says that God created Adam in his own image. And that is repeated again in Genesis 9:6. Whoever sheds the blood of Adam, by Adam shall his blood be shed, for God has made Adam in his own image. So, and again, I'm not opposed to the idea of the universality of this verse and how people read it, but I'm just stating that's not actually what is written, nor is it what was understood throughout the biblical Old Testament period. It had in fact, this is never repeated again. You won't find this again, this idea, this verbiage again in the Hebrew Bible surrounding the idea of God creating man, humanity, whatever, in the image of God, or the fact that we all share God's image. We have, we're created in his image. That idea is not present in the Old Testament. It's an amazing, amazing thing to see how misunderstood that is. Recently, I was at the exhibit at the Museum of the Bible, and once again, I saw in the exhibit them taking this verse and doing their Christian midrash on it and talking about how the Bible speaks about the intrinsic value of all humanity and us creating God's image. And I'm sorry, that's just not what it says. It's speaking about Adam, and that, as we'll hear, is also how Paul understood it. Paul actually reads it quite literally and speaks about man being created in the image of God. But he's speaking of males, interestingly enough, sort of an interesting sort of take on it. But that comes not because he was a chauvinist, but because he's reading the text in its literal reading. And not everybody in the first century took the reading that we have today, that this is somehow a statement about all of humanity. Again, it's not repeated again in the Hebrew Bible. First time that we have this is in the 2nd century, which goes back to my statement again in the introduction, is that really the 2nd century BC lies at the center of the development, I think, of Second Temple period Judaism. The events surrounding the Antiochian persecutions, the response to that, the trying to grapple with that, leads so many different ideas come out of that period of time. And Ben Sira, or Sirach, or Ecclesiastica, sometimes it's called, as part of the Apocrypha, the intertestamental work. It's a Jewish work, a very important Jewish work that was written, again, about 2nd century BC. It states here for the first time, the Lord created man out of earth and turned him back to it again. And he gave to men few days, a limited time, but granted them authority over the things upon the earth. He endowed them with strength like his own and made them in his own image. So here we have a plurality. We're coming closer and closer, approaching this idea of the universality of the divine image in humanity. And that, I think this is an indicator of the beginning of that development of these ideas. Coupled together with this idea of us bearing God's image, the Imago Dei, also is the idea of the intrinsic value of the individual, because they are created in God's image. We have a statement, we have an episode, which I find fascinating in in Luke 6. It appears in all three Gospels, but in Luke, it's slightly different. And I think brings us closer to some of the dynamics that are going on. This is the man with the withered hand. And he's there in the synagogue, and it's Shabbat. And so there's limitations in terms of what can be done. And what does he do? He asks the man to stick out his hand. Well, first of all, this verse right here is when he calls the man before those who are observing. They're all wanting to see what Jesus is going to do on the Sabbath. And he asks them, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save a soul or to destroy it? Now, I've color-coded it so you can follow the threads, that this is a statement or question that is connected to a position that we hear in Mishnat Sanhedrin, a passage from the Mishnah, which is a collection of sayings, teachings about 200 AD, but they include within it things that come much earlier. And in there, we hear in the tractate Sanhedrin, we hear this idea sort of resonating, echoing. It says, therefore, a single man, Adam Yachid, was created in the world to teach that if anyone destroys a single soul, it is reckoned to him as if he destroyed the whole world. And if he saves a single soul, it is reckoned to him as if he saved the whole world.